Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Brandon.
I'm your host, Dan.
And we are the Alt Knights, and this is the Knights Court. We have a good show for you today, and we have a guest that will come on and talk later as the episode goes on for the Liberals Gone Wild segment.
Yes, we do.
A lot of good information.
You can find him at The British Conservative on Instagram.
So, Dan, our first topic, DACA and just the illegals going, all of us, none of us.
Yeah.
Dan, thoughts?
I saw that on the news with Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Alzheimer's Pelosi.
Bunch of illegals stormed into the building, autistically screeching, all of us or none of us.
And she had them come up. She was on saying she had them come up before they started. So they were like they seemed like they were on her side. So they were up there with her. And I'll put this into the episode, and I'm gonna make this one a little more visual. I'm gonna add a lot of footage in. And they had her. She had them come up. Some were a lot of them were storming her, and then she had a lot of them that were up. And then it was just like it's just like a Order 66, Star Wars. Order 66, they just turned on them. They're turning on the liberals now, and screaming,
All of us or none of us.
Nancy, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And here's the video of Nancy just getting destroyed.
We have said to everyone, be very careful, report to us any deportations because they're telling us they're not happening. And wait a minute. You just wait a minute. You have, well, if you do not want to listen, if you do not.
Where were you? When we asked?
They've never asked.
Now you tell us. You have the audacity. Tell us. You have been fighting deportation.
Yes, I am. You do not. You don't know what you're talking about.
You are a liar.
You are not helping the cause that we want to take this first stage today. Well, do you not want to listen?
And welcome back to News Now. Taking a live look here in San Francisco's Dreamer event, where Dreamers right now are screaming at Nancy Pelosi. Let's continue to listen in here.
Respectful place here with College Track. We're gonna go ahead and reclaim their...
My thoughts on that is I don't think a lot of these people have like a basic grasp of economics. They don't understand that just simply and suddenly giving amnesty to 11 million people will just fucking decimate the economy once you factor in that these people are they're now U.S. citizens, which means they're now entitled to welfare, social security, and a whole healthcare and a whole
education,
a whole slew of other things that cost the U.S. money. So when you when you just put a burden like that out of nowhere onto the economy, that's how you get 2008. So, granted, 2008 was a different situation, but still. The point is that you cause an economic crash and a recession.
With 20 million $20 trillion in debt.
Exactly. We can't. The fact of the matter is, we simply can't afford to do it right now.
And they go and say, oh, who's gonna do the jobs that the white kids don't want to do? Okay, and what would those jobs be? Picking veggies and fruit and stuff in the fields? Well, I have a solution to that. Now, people know, if you don't know, when people are in prison, they have jobs in prison.
Yes, they do.
They do, and they even do get paid. They get paid a little bit. It's not labor that goes
A few
without
cents
pay.
an hour.
Yeah, they don't really get paid, and what they make, they buy cigarettes and stuff like that. They'll buy stuff, but it's nothing really the amount of pay. So what if they do this instead? And this is going when you kick out all the illegals that are here. How about you just go and make the prisoners start working in the farms and picking stuff? Not using like the worst of the worst, like a some rapist and serial killer, but convicts that like smaller crimes and stuff like that.
Maximum security convicts.
Yeah, not stuff like that. But prisoners that smaller crimes and have them work in the field and do the jobs that the illegals would have. I don't see a problem with that, and you pay them a little bit. And what do you think, Dan? What do you think about that idea?
I wouldn't mind it. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's an idea that they should start thinking of, but I doubt that they even thought about that. But we want to know what you guys think about. Comment down below. Tell us what you think about that idea. I think that's something that could really be a big help. And all the jobs that the illegals don't want to do, you make the prisoners do.
Actually, we have some breaking news here. This is pretty funny. Hillary on Maddow, on the Maddow show, South Korea. Get this, South Korea is literally within miles of the border with North Korea. So hold up. You mean to tell me that South Korea was bordering North Korea this whole time? I had no idea.
My whole life has been a lie.
Whoa. Dude.
This is like, am I living in a dream?
How?
Dad, I don't know.
Since when did South Korea border North Korea? I thought they were two separate countries. Whoa! Anyway, in all seriousness, what the fuck, Hillary? Not much gets past good old Miss Clinton there. Yes, South Korea is within miles of North Korea. Thank you for enlightening us on that.
Oh my god.
Anyway, back to DACA.
Back to DACA. Thank you for that, Dan. Jesus Christ. So yeah, I think there's a lot of jobs that they can have prisoners do, the illegals, that illegals would be doing, and the farmers. I know the farmers would have no problem with that because the farmers don't have to pay them. Farmers don't have to pay for that labor. That's something that they should consider. But that'll never happen because all the liberals, they want the illegals in. So with Nancy Pelosi and them and they, who are they to demand? They have the audacity to demand
All of us or none of us.
in rights and that and just in general everything that they're demanding.
You know
You
what's
are not a
funny
citizen.
is
You don't belong here.
a while back on the news, I saw this thing. These people were trying to provide free legal counseling to illegals who were basically being paid. They either weren't getting paid or being paid slave wages to clean houses. They were trying to give these people legal representation. Let me tell you what happens the second you step into a courtroom. You are illegal. You do not have the rights of an American citizen. You are not entitled to legal aid. The second you step into that courtroom, all we have to do is say, this one is illegal, please deport them, and boom, you're gone. You don't have rights.
You have absolutely no rights as a U.S. citizen. Nothing.
You can get all the legal representation you want. Doesn't matter, because you have no rights as an American citizen.
And just like you have Maryland now allowing illegals to vote in statewide elections. Illegals can vote now. Thoughts, Dan?
That's ridiculous. They don't belong here in the first place. Why should they get to decide what officials are elected into government? I mean, it's just a power grab for votes.
That's all it is. And these Democrats, they don't care.
Anything that gets them votes.
And there was a report that came out a couple of days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. In New York City, ICE agents arrested these immigrants, illegal immigrants, outside a courthouse, and they were convicted of crimes. I forgot what the crimes were. And with New York City, for those who don't know, New York City is a sanctuary city. At least what de Blasio, the mayor, Bill de Blasio, is trying to do.
Yeah, Cuomo's not having any of that.
It's and even he isn't. And what de Blasio was saying is that unless you are convicted of a felony, you will be, if you're convicted of a felony, you'll be reported to immigration law. But little misdemeanors and stuff like that, they don't care about. And unless you have a record, and these two immigrants that got arrested outside the courthouse had records. But
oops.
But it just goes back to what? You're gonna wait till they murder someone, till they rape someone?
Yep.
That's all it is. They had the guy in Oregon. If you guys remember the post, this was back in, I think it was back in the summer, in July, where there's a guy in Oregon who he got deported 20 times. They just sent him back 20 times, and then the 21st time, he raped an old lady. He raped an old lady.
What the fuck, dude?
And they have to stop this, because what? He's like, oh, he didn't do anything the first time. We just deport him. Come the second time sometimes, yeah, I guess it takes 21 times for these illegals to do something really, really bad. Why take the chance? Why take the chance at all? They had the it was the who was it? Was it Maxine Waters? I think it was the walking corpse, Maxine Waters.
Was she the one that said the ocean is racist?
Was that her? It was probably
I think she was the one who said the ocean was racist.
This is the one that it was reported that it was true, coming from her, I think it was Twitter, that this was reported that it was true, that she had a picture, was it Venice Beach? Which is what, her district?
Yep.
It was low tide. She had a picture of low tide and then the picture of high tide. And the picture of low tide and how it's and how the ocean is receding. This was taken 6 hours after each other. This is proof of global warming.
Pretty sure she then went on to call the ocean racist.
That was probably the same time around that. And Maxine, the Walking Dead, the Walking Corpse, the Walking Dead, the Walking Corpse, and the Walking Dead waters. It's called tides. There's high tide and low tide. Maxine Waters she's a whole. We can do a whole segment on her.
Oh yes, we can.
We can, and let us know your thoughts on Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Bill de Blasio.
And as for DACA,
in conclusion to the this segment of DACA, I think what we should do is really try to do the whole thing about the prisoners doing the labor that the illegals would be doing, and just it's a whole mess. Now they're turning on liberals because they don't want to be a bargaining chip or whatever. We could really go and get rid of them. It's not that hard, and their sources the whole DACA database. We can just deport them, and they do not have the right to say what they're saying and demanding things. Dan, next topic, it's gonna be
The kneeling 8-year-old.
Now for those who haven't seen it,
Inspired by Colin Kaepernick.
in Chicago, it was Chicago.
Of course, it's
but they
Chirac.
had-
Where else?
It was a football team, Pee-wee football team. The coach had the kids, 8-year-olds, kneeling for the national anthem at the game. Dan, give us your thoughts.
Well, inspired by the actions of a failed quarterback.
Who everyone now is saying that he is better than half of the quarterbacks in the league.
No, he's not. He's trash. Anyone who says Colin Kaepernick is a good quarterback has never watched a fucking game of football in their life.
He's not even a starter.
He's a fucking third string now, dude. He's so bad. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, he started this whole kneeling during the national anthem because that's racist thing. So now we have a coach here trying to implement his political ideology onto 8-year-olds.
And here's the full clip of the kids kneeling.
Take that to the car. Okay. Put it in right now. Go.
What kind of song is this?
And the parents support it. Oh, but I wonder why.
Well, it's Chirac.
It's Chirac, and this is the thing. They're all black. Parents are black. These are all black kids. Coach is black. The parents are black, and they're probably all like BLM supporters. No surprise there. But the point is that as a coach, as a teacher, as basically a mentor for these kids, because a big thing that stops these kids from going on the street and being gangbangers is it's sports.
Getting them
And
involved in something.
Getting them involved, yeah, and whether it's community service of any type or sports, and they have a lot, a lot of rec centers that are out there, and Chicago has a lot of them. You don't start doing that. It's his own views, and you can you see the 8-year-olds, you see the kids, and they're kind of just kneeling. They don't really have no idea what they're doing. They're just doing because they were told to, and they're just complying. They're just listening like good kids. But there's one kid, if you see it, there's one kid that's his posture and his kneeling is perfect. He looks like that one kid. When you see him, he looks like he actually knows what's going on. But
Well, they're 8 years old. They're sentient enough to understand the consequences of their actions and what they're doing. They're not stupid. They're 8 years old.
And with the whole thing with how it started in the NFL, you go and you're saying that there's no justice or anything. And how much money is Colin Kaepernick getting?
Millions upon millions.
And where we have soldiers that are white, that are homeless. And then there goes back into their saying about white privilege. There's no such thing as white privilege.
No such thing.
No such thing as white privilege. Because he is making millions upon millions, and he's not white. And with him, he was able to get up there, even though he sucks. He was still able to, make that money, fine. And a lot of black people can get to the same place if they actually work hard and try. But these kids don't want to learn in school. Dan, you and I, we both went to school in the public school system.
Yep.
We both know how they are.
Yep.
They don't want to learn. They're animals.
It's not mental. You don't go to public school to learn. You go to public school to sit down and be indoctrinated. I got out of the public school system after middle school and went to a private school instead. But in middle school, they took away. We used to play football in the schoolyard. They took away everyone. They took away. How do I articulate this? They took away our right to play like basketball and football and soccer for you Europeans, American football and football. But yeah, they took that away because one girl got hit in the head with a football.
And that was the same thing with
and
us.
They told us no more balls in the schoolyard. They're playing tag. One person fell over. They banned running in the schoolyard.
Oh my god.
You had to walk in the schoolyard or else you would get written up. But imagine this tenfold. This is what goes on across the nation.
Yeah, this is and this is what goes on, and we will and we're gonna before we continue on this topic, I think we'll elaborate even more on this. I think next week, because this would be a good topic. But go on, Dan.
No, that's it. That's my thing right there. Just public schools don't. And then any kid who, it's funny because any kid who acts up in the classroom, or like if you're bored, as Family, I think Family Guy really put it best. It says on page 2 of 3 of the teacher's handbook, any child who isn't paying complete attention in class should be medicated with Ritalin and Adderall.
God. Oh. But back to the whole kneeling thing. You don't turn your back on the flag and the anthem for it.
Dude, when I was playing sports when I was a kid, I was a competitive swimmer when I was a kid. So when we were let me tell you, when we went to the championships every year, when the national anthem played, we all stood up, we faced that flag, and we pledged allegiance to that flag. It was unacceptable to be sitting down.
And it's what you do. It's what you're supposed to do. And you're an American, and it's like, oh, I have the right to do this. Yeah, you do, but it's about respect. There's other ways you can go about and get your voice heard in another way. There's no reason to disrespect the flag and the country that's allowing you to do this, whereas in another country you'd be shot and killed or thrown in prison. There's a difference between disrespecting the flag and then not agreeing with the country and laws and system or however you want it. you just don't do that, because without the country and the way it is, you wouldn't be able to do that.
And mind you, the law isn't a basis for morality.
Yeah, there's no like, oh, but this is the best way to do, because this is the most humane or the most
Because this is the law.
appeasing. Yeah, it's just how it is. It's just the law. Because if you want a whole moral justifications and it's a moral moral, all the illegal, if there's no feelings. Law does not care about your feelings. There's laws for a reason, and it's for the betterment of everything and just the best for the country and to keep people safe. And liberals go off about everything based on their feelings. They have no logic.
My feels.
My feels. And just to conclude the conclusion with the whole kneeling thing, because we want to get to our guest, which is going to be pretty good.
We have one final segment before that.
And we have one final segment before that. Yep. It's just, there's a lot of other ways to go about it. And Colin Kaepernick, I think he's just an attention whore.
Certainly is.
Certainly is. And then you start going to these kids' minds, just, you're basically just destroying them mentally. You're pushing your own agenda on these kids. You're supposed to be neutral as a coach, just like a teacher is in school.
Well, not college professors.
Yeah, apparently not with college professors.
It's a different story.
Just all right. Before we get to our guest that we're pretty excited to have here, it's getting to our first guest. Then let's talk about California suing Donald Trump for the border wall.
Yeet.
Let's say 11 million illegals in the country. We don't know how many there are. There could be 50 million. We have no idea. 11 million, 50 million. We don't know how many there are. Let's say 11 million. Within that 11 million, I'm sure we can come up with at least 1 million criminals, like really bad criminals or future criminals. Oh, California. So California going about trying to sue Donald Trump for the wall. You don't have a say, California. You really don't.
No, you don't.
And all your funding as a state should be taken away with everything you're doing, with everything that you're going about. Now, if you've seen the post about the raw sewage from Mexico that's going into Arizona, well, before that, in San Diego, there was a beach in San Diego that people were swimming in. They were swimming at a beach, and they started noticing a bad smell that was coming from the water. And it was gross and all these things, and they found out that it was sewage. Raw sewage is going into the ocean from Mexico into San Diego, California. Where are the environmentalists? Where are they?
That would be racist.
That would be racist. Where are all the liberals going and saying that Mexico has to fix this? Oh, they're not. They're not doing anything. Mexico should pay for that too. Now in Arizona, this is how stupid California is. Arizona has this raw sewage is going towards their water supply. Soon Arizona's going to have no water supply left with raw sewage in it. And California wants to sue Donald Trump for building a wall. They should be suing Mexico. Mexico says they can't. Mexico is saying that they can't fix their sewage plants. I think they should pay for that too, the raw sewage cleanup. And because what if, oh God forbid, the United States has a problem and the sewage gets backed up and goes into Mexico?
Oh my God.
What would happen there? Oh my God. And the Californian officials that are going about this whole lawsuit, this is what they said. He said that no one is above the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
Dude.
So illegals are above the law. By your logic, no one's above the law. That means we should send all these illegals back. Hillary Clinton should be in prison, and Bill Clinton should be in prison too.
Yes,
Thoughts,
he should.
Dan, on that? Thoughts?
They should be in prison.
And Obama. I don't know. California is the cuck state. At this point. And they want to secede. They want to do all these things. It's just California's pushing it. And soon they're going to push it even more. They're just pushing and pushing and pushing until the fist comes down and they will know what to do. Final thoughts?
I just gotta see what it comes to with California.
Well, now it's time for the segment that you all love. I know I love it. Liberals Gone Wild. And we have our guest, the British Conservative.
Let's get to it.
So now we have our guest here, the British Conservative. So we're going to be talking about the public school system in England, because you're from England.
Yep, hi.
So tell us about what's going on there with the whole public school system, with liberals and all.
Well, first of all, I came out that was something like 75% of teachers voted Labour in British schools. And so what that already means is that the fact that our teachers are so left already, they instill their opinions onto us. And it's not a surprise that the young ridiculously vote left.
Right.
So that's America.
The British Labour Party, what is that for our viewers that don't know?
Like the Democrats, basically.
Okay, and UKIP, that was the ones, they were run by Nigel Farage?
Yes, Nigel Farage.
Right, so I don't know if there's any viewers out there who don't know about the legend Nigel. Why don't you give us your opinion?
I can.
Give us your opinion on Nigel Farage.
Well, he was an interesting character, and everyone sort of took him out as a racist and a bigot and all of that stuff, and no one took him seriously at all because he wanted to leave the EU, and he seen everyone of him as if he would blame all of England's problems on immigrants, which, to be honest, you can link a lot of problems of the United Kingdom on immigrants as well. But I really like him personally because I think that he brings an air to politics which is quite civil about him, in the sense that he's always smiling and laughing, even though people they genuinely hate him because they think of him as a racist bigot, which I would say he is neither of. And yeah, I think I'm not old enough yet to vote, but I would have voted for him probably 10 as a sort of protest vote or something against the Conservatives, as I don't feel they're kind of right-wing enough for me at the moment.
So when Brexit first went through, I saw a lot of stories talking about this was the downfall of the UK, basically predicting the UK apocalypse. Does any of that come true?
Look, yeah, they kind of used a lot of fear-mongering to the Remain side, which was the side, obviously, that wanted us to remain in the EU, was basically doing a lot of fear-mongering. They were like, oh, the world's basically going to end, there's going to be World War III if we leave the EU, that. And to be honest, none of that has happened. They also said that jobs would leave straight away as soon as we left, and then the day after the vote, basically there were businesses saying, oh no, we're not going to have to take our jobs out, we're going to try our best to sort of keep them in the United Kingdom. So basically it was all fear mongering, it was all talk and no do. The only real problem I've seen is that the pound has taken a hit, but then again it's all to do with confidence, and there's less confidence obviously because you don't know what's going to happen after leaving the EU.
And then probably you'll start seeing it rise again.
Yeah,
Once things
I
start
would
settling.
assume so.
Right.
Once we know exactly what's going on, I think it will rise. Just now, it's unsure.
And now, has there been any improvements with just how things have been? A lot like positive stuff going on?
Look, for the moment, not much has been happening. I think that in the end, the people who didn't want this vote to go this way are hoping for basically it to quieten down so that they can sort of override it and try and stop us from leaving the EU, which is what seems for them to be trying to do. The Independent, a kind of left-wing newspaper, actually posted today an article on saying that we could still actually stay in the EU, which just sounds ridiculous to me. And nothing bad has been happening and nothing amazing has been happening because we've kind of stayed still in time and we haven't really been doing much because...
And it's still pretty new.
Yeah. And as you know, there was the election, the general election in the UK, which strengthened their hand, and instead the opposite happened because Theresa May, the head of the Conservatives, which would be Theresa May, you know, during the general election, trying to strengthen the Conservatives' hand so that we could do better in the negotiating table with Brexit. Theresa May, she kind of did very badly in the general election in the run-up to it, acted like Hillary Clinton, sort of acting as if it was ordained to her that position. And
So, I'm reading a few stories. I heard that acid attacks in London are on the rise. Is there any truth to that?
yeah, actually, there's a huge amount of truth. There seems to be one sort of every week. It's ridiculous.
Really?
Seriously. Yeah.
And it doesn't get reported.
Every
So a lot of people don't know
of,
what's going on.
Yeah, I think that probably some of the reasons why it's not getting reported because they treat acid attacks as if they're sort of just a normal sort of stabbing or whatever, in the sense that you wouldn't report internationally a stabbing, just an average stabbing, but there's a lot more behind just acid attacks, considering they're kind of the main they're mainly used by sort of Islamic sort of, you know, Muslim people to, I don't know, attack people who are going against them in some way, for example, running away from an arranged marriage or something like that.
Yeah, it's common to hear about them, you know, using that type of attack. And speaking of that, and you're from London, right?
Yeah, it's very, it's quite common. And I mean, the problem is, it's not even refugees as such, it's kind of homegrown.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's a good point to bring up. Because in the United States, there's a problem with a lot of people that, you know, they do terrorist attacks, like there was a guy at the nightclub and stuff. It's a lot of the second generation, you know, the ones
it's like
the kids.
Yeah, it's literally this kind of thing is homegrown in the sense that refugees aren't exactly the problem here, I would say. I think it's just in general the sort of, I'd say what's worse than the refugees coming around is them importing sort of a very cancerous ideology, which is sort of extremist Islam, which is what homegrows terrorists in this nation, because we have such huge communities of huge Islamic communities here. I mean, you can go up in North London and we all barely recognize it as Britain. I'm not even lying.
Jesus.
Britannistan.
Yeah. Exactly. I went up to look for a university up in North London, and I was kind of getting dirty looks because I was in a minority as being a sort of just white guy in the bus. It was just ridiculous.
So speaking of with London,
Yeah.
what's your give us your opinion on Sadiq Khan, the mayor.
Absolutely part and parcel.
Oh. Well, I do not like this guy at all, and I mean the stuff that he said. Like, he said that terrorism is part and parcel of being in a big city, so he kind of is just, oh yeah, we should just accept it as normality. It's it's part and what is part and parcel is having a Muslim sort of an Islamic population of around, that is part and parcel of having terrorism. And I would say is closer to it. Another thing that I found out, and you guys might not know this, but he was actually the lawyer of one of the accused 9/11 people who did 9/11, and he was the lawyer defending them. I don't know if
Holy
you knew
shit.
Oh, I did not know that. I guarantee pretty much. I don't know how many people know that in this country. I didn't know that. Dan, do you know that?
I had no idea.
My God.
Holy shit. That's
But how did the rest of
it
it
is so
take to?
bad.
to
I was
saying
like,
that?
how did that not come out? Seriously.
So tell us how did the rest of England take that statement about it's part of living in a city, that terrorism?
There was kind of outrage on one half, which kind of right wing kind of, and then there was another half of but you have to realize London is the kind of most left in all of England. There's that much outrage. Any kind of normal person was like, how could you say something like that? What, that we kind of need to accept terrorism as a normality? And then the other side, which were basically, they're kind of defenders of Islam no matter what, they were kind of like, yeah, it's just normal, we're gonna have to just deal with it. Now it's become ridiculous with all the terror. Everyone sort of unanimously shrugs their shoulders whenever there's a terrorist attack. It's ridiculous.
So it sounds just like I don't know, like some. It sounds like what's going on here, but the difference is that we really don't have attacks like this, at least not commonly. So tell us how like the far left, like, do you guys have like your own Antifa?
Yeah, we do have them actually. Well, basically, there were marches against Trump and stuff like that in London. Actually, I don't know why, but yeah, and there was a huge Antifa presence there, and I've had like a few run-ins with them, but not kind of stuff like that. But I was at a pro-life march because I'm quite a sort of active pro-lifer, and basically me and my mates, we were there, and basically we started to smile at the counter protesters when we were at this march.
Oh no.
We smiled, sort of like abortion kills, and we were like just smiling at them of like Antifa. I don't think he was actually part of Antifa, but the same kind of style, dressed up in a mask in all black. He came up to me and my friends. We're all 18-year-olds, and he was a 25, 26-year-old, and he came up to us threatening to punch us, and he actually grabbed my mate. So there were kind of us three that were kind of pushing him back. Then the police got in the middle of us and was telling us to get back and stay away, and it was ridiculous. All we did was smile at them, and he came to beat us up, and even though we were visibly younger than that guy, it was ridiculous.
Wow, dude. Holy shit. I mean, this is what we've been saying. Antifa, they're animals, man.
And it's happening
And
there
coat
too.
hangers on and stuff like that. It's just bad. It's very bad here. It's not as bad with you guys, but from what I've understood, the sort of European Antifa is the purer, more dangerous one. I don't know if you've heard about it, because
That's my understanding of it. Yeah.
yeah, like there was that I forgot what it was called, that meeting of all the sort of world leaders. There were those huge sort of riots by Antifa against the leaders and stuff.
See,
So, go on, Dan.
I think what we need to cover here is Antifa is not. Their movement is not about installing. They're an anarcho-communist movement. Their movement is based around the downfall of all government in society. They want total anarchy, mixed with communism, which is just it's an oxymoron, first of all, because to implement
Which makes no sense. To be honest.
exactly.
Exactly.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly like it, isn't it? It's basically kind of, vegetarians for meat or animal cruelty, that kind of stuff.
Right.
I like that
Vegetarian
analogy.
for me.
Because then what's going to end up happening is a communist government is going to have to control these anarchists, because then they'll just start creating anarchy within the government, and the government's going to shut that down. Then they'll start fighting amongst each other.
Yeah. They're just a sort of hypocrisy, to be honest, in everything that they do. Anarchy and communism makes no sense. Shutting down fascists by being, it also makes no sense, because that makes you a fascist. None of it actually stands up to scrutiny, basically.
Exactly. Their movement is founded on lies.
Exactly. Lies and hypocrisy, to be honest. I don't know how anyone takes them seriously. And it seems like in America, the sort of media is waking up to this and saying, yeah, they're quite violent. And my left-wing friends say, oh, yeah, Antifa makes us look like shit, basically.
Yeah, you see, here in America, what wound up happening with on that situation, we actually reported on this on, was it the last podcast or the first one?
It was the first night's court.
Yeah, we actually reported on this, because what wound up happening here was one of the reporters got attacked by a mob of Antifa, and seemingly overnight, all the mainstream media news channels just turned on them.
George Soros, where's our money? With Antifa chanting, George Soros, where's our money? That was another one.
Oh, my.
Coming around the same time. and with
Wow.
the Antifa and the media, there's been that change, and then there's a few people that you still see that they actually bring on. They like CNN. CNN's a joke. But they still have them on, and they're like, oh, they're looking for peace through violence. There's still some of that, but the media is slowly turning.
It's ridiculous, and I mean, yeah, there are still some people trying to defend them. I mean, I saw an article by Al Jazeera that was talking about Greece is training anti-fascists to punch up fascists. It's so great. I mean, that just makes no sense. And I thought that the left was about violence, but it seems that they dehumanize you by calling you a racist and a fascist so much that they're allowed to just beat the crap out of you with no problems, because you're not human anymore. You're just a fascist. And also, usually, you're not even a fascist, because you just have some right-wing views and you get beaten up.
Yeah, and it's the point where it's like, it's almost like for them, it's almost like a moral crusade that they have to go and bash the fash.
They believe it's a moral obligation.
Yeah. And they feel like they're on this moral high horse, and like fascists and like Hitler did, they felt that what they were doing by the Holocaust is cleansing the world of Jews, when really it was a disgusting thing. But they thought that they were doing the whole world a service. Now, what these sort of anti-fascists, in quotation marks, these anti-fascists feel is that they're on such a moral high ground that they can beat up anyone who they think is a fascist, which hardly ever is a fascist.
So with with all that, now with Antifa, and now you start seeing they're starting to show more Antifa type groups in Europe, and they're starting to show them in, I think it was France. There was one in Spain. I don't know if you guys have been hearing about this. There's been some, and recently there was an American Antifa member was in France, and he lit a car on fire. It was a cop car, and there was a policewoman inside, and they lit her on fire. She survived, but she thought she was gonna die. And that brings and
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and American Antifa are there because a lot of them study abroad. So you have American college students in Europe that would be Antifa here.
Yeah, I mean, was it true that at the Ben Shapiro rally that Antifa stabbed someone in the?
We reported on that. Yeah,
We did report on that.
We reported, and I reported an update, and there was some people were saying that there was still like a stabbing. They say that the Berkeley police reported that there was no stabbing, but the Berkeley police have lied in the past.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
there was a lot of stuff. The woman was taken to the hospital. What we do know is that the woman was taken to a hospital. There was EMT, and she was on a stretcher. What the main story is now is that there's
fell.
two. That she fell. If she fell, what people are thinking is that they pulled her down, and then she hit her head as they were pulling her down, or that she just fell. But there actually hasn't been any confirmation or anything. There's really no confirmed info. And I've actually looked at this extensively and really looked into it. There is absolutely no 100% truth to anything. And when it came out, there was only one article made. It was written by a San Francisco online news outlet, and it was an article, and the headline was "Woman Injured at Ben Shapiro." At Ben Shapiro's speech, and they didn't even talk about the woman. So yeah, there's actually nothing on it really, and it's being covered up, and it's dead.
Yeah, because it seemed like it was getting hardly any coverage. But I mean, even if they didn't stab the woman and instead pulled her down, I mean, Antifa has no honor and no boundaries. First of all, they put women in their front lines, and then we get called sexist and bigots and all of this. It's ridiculous, seriously.
Like Moldy Locks who got punched in the face.
By the legend himself, Nathan D'Amigo.
Yeah.
Wait, is that the bass stick man?
No, that's Kyle Chapman.
There's Kyle Jack. There's this woman where she had it was at one of the Berkeley. I forgot which one at Berkeley it was. Might have been was it the second one? The second one it was. They sent out the women to go in the front lines, and this guy he was a college student. He went and punched her in the face, but she was attacking him. There's a whole big thing, and but then around the same time as when Bass Stickman was coming out and all that. But one thing about the nothing I was gonna say that it goes in about all this stuff. It goes into the bigger picture, which is the whole thing about the EU and what's happening and just what the EU is doing to all of Europe. So tell us your opinion on the EU itself.
My opinion is quite a strong opinion. It's basically a huge organization that basically wants to create a huge sort of United States of Europe and basically have a sort of largely autocratic regime, basically where the kings are, well, not the kings, the leaders are unelected bureaucrats. My opinion is very, very negative. I don't think that there are any redeeming factors. I mean, from its beginning, they stated that they wanted to sort of create a United States of Europe, which I would definitely not want that to happen, because it would just bring again some form of dictatorship to Europe. Basically, it will start with small things, but.
And you can see what's going on in Poland. Poland is trying to get rid of their Supreme Court judges. which
Yeah.
they were put in by the EU, and they're trying to get them out. And Germany and Belgium are threatening them. They're threatening that there's going to be consequences, and you see how Germany is going to. So you have Belgium, who's the head of the EU, is in Brussels, which is in Belgium.
Yeah, in Brussels.
And then you have Germany. So what is like Germany? Like it's like second in command or something?
Germany is really heavily involved because they give, along with the United Kingdom and France, they give a lot of money to the EU. Kind of, we share the biggest. We give the biggest amount of money, get sort of least in return, and we give it to sort of the crappy countries like Greece and Hungary and stuff that need to be bailed out.
And and with Germany, because that's what I was wanting to know. Because with Germany, because Germany's threatening Poland to take more refugees, and Poland's doesn't want to take any more of the refugees, so they're going to sue. They're threatening to sue Poland.
Yeah.
So Poland, in return, is suing them for $1 trillion for World War II
Yeah.
damages.
Well, as you know, half of Poland was never returned.
I heard that. That made me laugh a lot.
Post World War II, half of Poland was never returned by Russia.
Yep, there were some places. I mean, this is what makes me proud to be Polish, to be honest. I have a little bit of Polish blood in me, and this makes me proud. They are fighting back against it, and they have seen what sort of multiculturalism has done to the rest of Europe, and how basically they're one of the only nations in Europe that hasn't suffered a terrorist attack, and it's definitely because they have migrants, and they're fighting back against it hard. But the thing is, another problem that shows you how to dig to talk that once you have a beef with the EU, where you answer to is the European Court. So basically, you lose any time.
Yeah, it's just a whole big like, I'm bigger than you type thing. Like, oh, you wanna go and fight the big bad guy. And because it's like with Poland, they're being called the rebel nation by Germany and Belgium, and Poland is really is England. With you guys started the Brexit, and that's what really started this chain of rebellion against the EU.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I mean, England has never been, or the UK has never been good at sort of cooperating with other nations. I mean, we were never part of the Holy Roman Empire, and then actually when we were in the sort of Roman Empire, England was always fighting back against the Romans, and now the EU has also tried to their will, and we prefer sovereignty over sort of joining the EU for their sort of shallow benefits of the EU, like funding to some things and stuff like that. And so we've kind of started off this rebellion. We've showed that they are weak. They are weak, and we can fight against them. And now everyone else is kind of jumping on the back of that.
Yeah, because now you have Poland, you have even Macron of France has even talked about leaving the EU. He's being a big criticizer of the EU. You're having parties, right-wing parties in Finland now are talking about leaving.
Italy might even as well, and stuff like that. I believe it's
really it's very remarkable. You have, and there's other countries. Austria is fighting back. They're stopping taking influx of refugees. Bulgaria, Hungary sent Germany a bill. They sent them a bill, or they sent Germany and Belgium a bill to for their border fence that they made.
It's amazing. I mean, we've started off this chain reaction, and now everyone else has realized actually the EU isn't this sort of big bully that no one can stand up to. If one of the main guys is doing it, we can do it as well. And hopefully this just started a chain reaction that will kind of be the end of the EU. I mean, right now they're doing their best to sort of keep us from leaving and, you know, drown us with paperwork and all of this kind of stuff, so that
They're
so that we
scrambling.
think, oh,
They're scrambling at this point. They don't know what. They don't even know what to do because it's all hitting them at once.
yeah, exactly. This bombshell hit them, and they have no. And if we hold on to the UK, maybe the way it was, but it's too late now. We've made the decision. You can scramble as much as you want, but we're gonna be leaving within, whether it's in 2 years or 5 years. We're gonna leave and probably take the rest of the people with the rest of the nations with us.
Yep, and it's just gonna be everyone. They're gonna finally get to have really be their own country. They're gonna finally. Everyone's gonna finally get. You know, don't have to listen to the big mighty voice in Brussels.
Big brother.
Yeah, Big Brother, basically, exactly. Apart from the cuck that is the cuck nation that is just still the only country left in the EU, kind of going, trying to keep everyone together, but because, you know, they didn't manage to rule the world during World War II, so now they can rule Europe through the EU, which is what they're doing, really.
Yeah, it's just it's amazing. It's amazing.
See what a lot of sort of they didn't manage to control Europe before, and now they are managing it through the EU with all the debts that everyone owes to them and everything, like Greece, Italy, you know, all of these countries.
And there's a report that came out, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I think it was, where Italy is stopped. They're stopping immigration and the refugees, and they had to have Austria come and back up their borders to help. I think it was Austria that they asked for help. But you have all these countries now that are finally rebelling, because it's like England. It's like the UK is like the glimmer of hope in Europe right now. And
Yeah,
then
I mean,
you see all the chain reaction.
yeah, it really is, and I'm part Italian myself, and I come from Sicily, so the island that is closest to Africa. So a lot of the migrants come through that island, and the Italians are left just. The Italians are not sort of as liberal as English people and stuff like that, in the sense that they genuinely see the problem and are not happy about what the migration is doing to Italy. I mean, there were families in Italy that got kicked out of their sort of social housing to let migrants take their house. So families were taken out of their social housing, and migrants were put instead of them, and they were left on the streets. Stuff like that. And Italians have gone nuts about that.
Dan, that wasn't reported at all here.
No, it wasn't. Actually, speaking of social housing, there was a few months ago, wasn't there a apartment building in Britain full of refugees that burned down? Or was that somewhere else?
Yeah, that housing, yeah, the Grenfell fire, that was not just full of, it was full of, I believe it had sort of a lot of undocumented sort of illegal immigrants in that housing, which is why the number of people who died isn't exactly known. It wasn't, I'm not sure or not, but yeah, the police, if you know that there were kind of undocumented housing, you tell us now, and we won't press any charges, but you have to tell us. And so that's why a lot of people went missing, and we don't know, because we don't actually know how many people lived in that house, because yeah, in England you have this thing where a lot of housing is rented out to illegal immigrants because it's easier.
Right, we have that here in New York too.
Yeah, definitely, probably the same in big cities, to be honest.
It's really interesting, and it's good that we, our first, and you are our first guest to come on the show, and it's really good. I think it could make for a better first guess, someone from England, to shed some light on what's going on there, which I don't
Yeah.
think many people know exactly what's going on there in Europe.
Yeah, it's quite a different situation. I'd like to keep this sort of special relationship that the UK and America have. So coming on these American shows is great, since we're kind of in the West, which seems the West doesn't really like freedom anymore.
It was good. It's just good talks and stuff. It's really interesting, and we do hope to have you come back. We do hope that you do come back, and we can talk a lot more about all these things that's going on, and there'll be new stories and all that. Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. You were a great guest. Loved having you on.
It's time for the viewer mail segment. Our friend Amy asked about merchandise.
It's on its way.
It's on its way, and we have ideas that we're coming up with, designs, and mainly things I think we're gonna do are shirts. It's on its way. We're gonna have some pretty cool designs. We're gonna come up with a few. We're still working on that, and we'll keep everyone posted about that, updates and all the details about it. And I think merchandise is something everyone wants. On the Street Reporting won the poll that if you didn't see the results, the final reporting won the poll. Little quick shout out to that poll. So it's on its way. It's on its way, the merchandise. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for everyone listening and tuning in. This has been the Knights Court. We're the Alt Knights, and I'm your host, Brandon.
I'm your host, Dan.
And we'll see you all next time.
See you next time.